Wow,
I never took you for a woo person.
Oh God, no! Please, no. Can we take that back? Like, just cut off.
No. That's it.
Shit.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Talking Tuong, the weekly quarantine show where I get to talk to my friends and family from near and far over the internet to talk about the important things in life, like movies, video games, music. That's it. Those are the only important stuff that I care about these days. No politics, although sometimes it's interrelated and you can't get away from it. But we try our best not to address that stuff because we just want to be happy. We want to spend one day a week with you all at home to just be happy. And I have the happiest person that I know. I'm not sure if that's true. I haven't seen you in a long time, so maybe you've gone dark since. But we have the ultimate woo person. In fact, I usually use a random adjective generator per episode, but this time we know that you're a woo person. So woo to Esther Freeman.
Woo to me. I can't believe I wooed. Honestly, that you're not going to let me down or let that down.
No, and it's hilarious because maybe I won't even include that part before the show. No, I have to. Context is everything.
Absolute. But yes, I am Esther, and apparently I woo.
Yeah, that's your thing. That's man. You've changed so much since I've last spoken to you.
No, I hope it haven't changed too much.
Well, we'll see if you change for the better or just for the woo. So Esther, for the people who don't know who you are, because it's been a while since we've last spoken in person and on Talking Tuong. Do you want to describe, who you are and what you're all about and how you're dealing with the pandemic and just how you are?
Yeah, I can do that. I don't mind talking about myself. So, hello, my name is Esther. I enjoy talking about myself. But really, what you need to know is that I'm passionate about music. I am passionate about just having conversations with people, seeing what their point of view is. And I like just chilling, like straight up. That's what I'm good at. And that's what I've done this pandemic. If I'm going to be real with you, everyone was like, oh, I'm going to go walk and run and be fit. I'm going to eat healthy. Nah, skip the dishes knows me.
You're just straight up chilling, living the best life you can during a pandemic.
Absolutely. That's the way you should do it, man.
Now, you mentioned chilling and stuff. Some people at the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm sure nothing has changed, but for those people, they were like, you know what? I have 3 weeks at home. At the time, it was 3 weeks. They were like, I'm going to learn a new instrument, or I'm going to get really into fitness, or like something like a hobby, discover a new hobby. Did you discover a new hobby, or did you just dive right into the hobbies you were already comfortable with, but even more so, and just spent more time chilling?
Yeah, no, I definitely thought about it for 24 hours. I was like, let's do something new. It's going to be great. And legit, I actually started it. I wanted to start up a podcast, oddly enough.
Oh.
And it was just going to be about, and this is before everything 2020 kind of happened, right? But I wanted to create a podcast about Black history, the stuff that they don't teach us in school. So I was really into, getting all that research, and straight up, it was more than 24 hours. But I chill. I'm real good at it, man. So I haven't gotten that off the ground yet, but it's a work in progress. Yeah,
that's cool, Esther. I would, not to sell the pod cavern because you're in it, but if you ever need a place to host your podcast, we can talk.
All right,
we can talk. Right. We'll see. Actually, you know what? I don't want to make promises. We'll see how this podcast goes today.
Late, man. You already technically promised me, so no matter what I say, it's not happening.
Darn it. Well, Esther, it's obviously really nice to hear your voice, and I'm excited to talk about the news of the week. The news. Now, Esther, we bonded before on movies. That's kind of how we became really good friends. We talked a lot about movies, and even though I disagree with you at every turn, that's kind of what makes our friendship even better. Is that it's nice to have someone who challenges you, I think, and has a different opinion than you, even though you're wrong.
I'm so right.
And I find that really fun to have, because sometimes people that come onto the show, they're too nice. They're too nice to me.
Oh, and, no. I'm not going to be nice.
But what I like about you is you always tell it as it is, and you always put me in my place. So it's good to have.
All right.
Now, Esther, I have some news, and if you don't really resonate with it, then we can move forward. And this is news that I pulled from IGN headline articles, and I didn't really read much of it or vetted it, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And how do you feel about Kill Bill?
Kill Bill. Okay, okay.
Like, how do you feel about Kill Bill as like a franchise? Did you watch Kill Bill 1 and 2? Did you like those movies?
Yeah, no, I've watched them. I own them, in fact. That being said, I watched it like twice. Um,
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
and that's actually pretty good for me. I usually don't watch like movies more than once, and if I do, it's just because like I really wanted a second take.
Right.
I enjoyed it, but it was definitely more on a visual sense than anything. Like I can't tell you the story.
You can't tell the story. Okay,
No.
well, the next news story we'll just gloss over
Yeah,
then because
fair,
it's
fair.
really like the nitty gritty. Let's just say, not to get too much into it, but there's Kill Bill, the bride, Uma Thurman's character kills like an assassin in one of the movies, and her daughter, the assassin's daughter, walks in of like her dead mother, and Uma Thurman has like a beautiful line where I'm paraphrasing here, where she says, "When you grow up." Oh wait, yeah. When you grow up, if you still feel raw about it, I'll be waiting. And
Oh.
this little kid's like really young, but people have been like, "Hey, it's been years now. Wouldn't it be cool if it was like someone else was out for blood
Hmm.
and Uma Thurman was the bad guy, and you have this like little girl who's like coming for a revenge story?"
Okay.
And people are pitching Zendaya as that person. So
Oh, okay. You know what? I don't like her, but you know, it's fine. I honestly, it's not that I don't like her. I just haven't seen her in a grown up role.
okay, okay. You know what? That's fair. I actually haven't seen her in a grown up role either. Although there's that HBO series it fails my memory right now that apparently is really really good. Maybe I can look that up in
Excellent.
a
I'm
little
so
bit.
glad you gave me all that info.
Well, apparently it's really good, but I honestly have never seen it, so maybe it's trash.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see. I was hoping you would see it, but apparently not.
You
How
know
do you
what?
feel about? Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like honestly, it sounds like an interesting concept, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't mind seeing it again. Like I'm not opposed to it, so
Yeah.
maybe I can tell you how wrong you are during that.
Okay, okay. And the show I'm talking about is Euphoria. Maybe you've heard about of it before.
That would be a
Euphoria.
negative. Apparently, I just
Okay.
haven't. I literally just chilled, stared at walls. Apparently, I
Yeah.
wasn't watching anything.
You're not chilling enough, I guess, in the right ways. What do you feel about Charlize Theron?
Oh God, I love her.
Do you know that they're making an Atomic Blonde 2 that's going
Yeah.
to be for Netflix?
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
And does that do it for you?
Ah, so I liked it. I did. I feel like I say this a lot. I liked it, but um, like it was interesting. I like the concept. I just don't know if I felt like she kicked enough ass in it, which is very
That's funny,
very
yeah.
judgmental, I would say, but listen, it's what I do. Um, but I don't know. Maybe the story in itself wasn't appealing enough for me. So then I was trying to judge her more.
Yeah, I see. I see that. Like Atomic Blonde is like, I hate to be reductive, but it did feel like a female's John Wick,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
not to say that's a bad thing. Like I think Atomic Blonde's action scenes are definitely high adrenaline and they're fun,
Oh, absolute.
and I
Yeah.
like it a lot. There's just something about John Wick that clicks a little bit better. I think maybe it's because it did it first, and and or the way they energize the franchise was a little bit more interesting when you watch John Wick, and then they go really off the walls. Or Atomic Blonde, it just felt like they were trying to be too close to that rather than be something else, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think they could have just been a little bit more creative with the approach. And I probably would have been like, oh my goodness, that movie's great. That being
Yeah.
said, though, like I will definitely watch the second one. Like hands down, I will watch it.
I mean, it's just fun to have in the background, if anything, right? Just see
Yeah.
like Charlize Theron, who I also love, just kick fucking ass. But speaking of her, Netflix's The Old Guard had just came out recently with her,
Hmm.
and that's based on a comic book, not comic book franchise, I think, or like it's based on comic books. I know that. I've never read it personally, but it is also one of the top 10 biggest Netflix movies of all time now, I believe. And Actually, a fun little fact is that today of this recording, July 19th, that there was like, oh, it's only for Americans, but they made this shitty browser game apparently that like they were running some contest. Is like, if you have the highest score in this shitty browser game based on this movie that did really well, then we will pay for 83 years of your Netflix subscription.
Oh, what? What browser
Yeah.
is this?
It was a browser video game, so you just play it right in your browser, but you have to be American to qualify.
I could be American. I could do it.
Yeah, I it's crazy to me to be, and also a really random to me. It's like 83 years. It's like, why that number?
I don't know, but for whatever reason, that entire concept kind of reminds me of Ready Player One. Just
Uh yes, I see what you say.
yeah, yeah. But like, I'm down for it. I'm just not American. Which, okay, you know what? I'm not upset about that actually.
Yeah, you know what? I said we wouldn't talk about politics, and we won't. So
No, no.
I also am glad we are not that.
I
Not
enjoy being Canadian. That's all.
not to steer away, scare away our American audience and
No,
Talking Tongue. Of course, we
no.
love you. Just other aspects we don't like about the country. Anyways, let's move on. I feel like I'm digging a hole here. Former MythBuster and White Rabbit Project host Grant Imahara has died at age 49. Do you recognize this person?
No.
He was like a host, very young, died from a brain aneurysm very suddenly. Not to bring us down here from politics to aneurysm.
Just going right on down.
Yeah, he's really famous. Like I remember watching MythBusters a little bit, and I was just surprised, and it really bums me out when things are like this, where it's like just out of a sudden, first time having a brain aneurysm and just done. Like that just seems, it's sad.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like it happens often, but your life is just cut right off, and you probably had so much more to give. Like I'm assuming a very talented individual,
Yeah.
and just so much more to offer the world. So that always sucks when that stuff happens. Yeah.
Yeah, very sad. Just another like blah to 2020.
Oh,
But hey, here's a win.
yeah.
Scooby Doo, mysterious incorporated producer Tony Cervone has confirmed that Velma is a lesbian.
Oh wow, that was high. That was
Yeah.
high, but I'm excited. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and James Gunn, who made the live action movie from years ago, back in like 2002, revealed that that character was supposed to be explicitly gay in that movie. But the problem is the studios kept watering down the gayness of Velma, that it became like almost like you wouldn't really know. And so basically the studio pressured him to like kind of get rid of it back, especially 2002. You remember like how
Yeah,
that was, right?
yeah.
Like, and then what happened was in the sequel, she got a boyfriend or something like that, which wasn't the intention.
Okay. Yeah, no, I always felt like she was gay, but then maybe that was like my own gayness projecting. I don't know. 2002, I was making discoveries as well, so who knows?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, no, okay, that's cool. I always love it when I just see more representation of every minority. Like, let's not even get all specific about it, but the reality is we are mixed in this old big old pot. Let's show it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And like, I just recently, they on Nickelodeon tweeted something and be like, "Hey, SpongeBob's like LGBTQ as well," and I'm like, "Yeah, totally, I can see that.
Yeah.
Why not?"
All right. No, that's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
yeah. Just it's cool to see like these characters like actually like reveal themselves and like, or like even if you made an old character that wasn't like. Not make them like give them a reason to be like lesbian, gay, bi, doesn't matter. Like I
Yeah.
like to see more representation on TV, I guess is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And I think it just kind of helps build a community as well. Like the reality is we all kind of, well, you and I, like our friendship is based upon movies and everything. Like it is a way of building relationships and whatnot. So why not have everybody represented in these relationships that we see?
Totally. And like Esther, you just mentioned that our friendship is based on movies, and
Oh,
if we
okay.
didn't have that, then we'd be enemies.
Well,
So
obviously, like that's the only thing tying us together. Oh,
um Project Power. Now, I just heard of this today, so I don't assume that you know what this is, but it's essentially a thriller superhero movie. Now, I know this already gives you an eye roll because I know you're not crazy about superhero movies, but Jamie Foxx is the lead. I'm
Oh,
not sure if that changes anything.
I'm
We
not gonna
have
lie. Yeah, just a little bit.
we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's
Changed
also
it.
in there.
Mhm.
I don't know who this is, but maybe you do. Dominique Fishback. Maybe I can look up a
Let
image and I know who that
me
is.
see.
Dominique
Is she
Fishback.
in the oh gosh, I think it's called The Hate You Give.
Is it? Oh yes, yes. Actually, that's I just googled that. I haven't seen that movie. It's on the queue, but yes, she is in that.
Yeah, okay,
Um,
okay. I got someone. Woo, look at me
all
go.
right. So this has an interesting concept, but I also don't think it's enough for you. Well, maybe Jamie Foxx is enough, so we'll see. But essentially, it's a superhero thriller where you get superpowers for 5 minutes at a time by taking a drug.
Mm.
Now, and 5 minutes is like the cap on it. So you got
Oh,
people who get like powers like flight and, your basic shit like invisibility,
yeah.
strength. And then like, here's where like the plot is already like eye rolling is that they're like, but not everyone turns out to be a hero. Some choose to harness their power to commit felonies. So it's one of those. How do you feel about that kind of concept?
Um, okay, well, I can work with it, I guess. I don't really think that's like surprising that some people are going to use it for bad. Like if we kind of stepping to the side, but if you take a look at the TV show The Flash or even the comics themselves, like
Yeah.
you already have that the metahumans and whatnot. They have the good side, they have the bad side. So that in itself is not really something new,
No,
but
I think the new thing is the 5 minute thing. And
yeah,
but you just like know that someone's like, hey, I made a drug that lasts 30 minutes.
right.
And that person's like the strongest or whatever. I don't know.
Oh man, it could be interesting.
Could be
I'll
interesting.
put it into like the maybe category.
Yeah. How about Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans? What are your thoughts on those two hunks?
Oh, well, they look delicious. No, I think that overall they're pretty entertaining to watch. I haven't ever really been disappointed by their performances. I
Yeah.
can't give like amazing praise for it, but like they definitely kept me over entertained. So
Yes,
there's
I
that.
like them both quite a lot, and I think they're very gifted actors. But and the new movie that was just announced is well, there's no official title I don't think was released, but Avengers directors, the Russo brothers, also have done many things before that, but they're most famous now from the Avengers series, at least for like the Endgame, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Civil War, all those MCU movies, but also like episodes of Community and stuff.
Hmm.
Anyways, they're teaming up to do like a kind of like a James Bond esque type of espionage movie with Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans co-starring together.
Okay, okay. I could get behind that. Ryan
Yeah.
Gosling has done like a fair amount of action movies himself. He had that Drive one. It was okay.
Oh, so good.
Oh, okay. Well then.
Oh, you didn't like it?
Mm,
Okay, now this is the differing opinions. Yes. Okay. Well, we don't have to get into Drive,
that's
but
probably a
we'll
good
just,
thing.
yeah, that's a whole you're crazy, but yes,
That,
we can get, but
yeah, I think it'd be good, honestly. Like that, I definitely, the concept of stuff, like, well, it's been done enough, like the Mission Impossible and everything like that. Um, Always a winner. I've never seen that style fail.
yeah, like even the bad ones are like pretty good enough, but
Mm,
also you have the Russo brothers directing it, which, will have, well, at least I know it will have like a really, it has big cred behind it is what I'm
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
say. Like
absolutely.
they're in good hands. The only thing
Absolutely.
that like I was reading, and I tend to agree too, it's kind of like, do we need two white men being in a James Bond-esque movie in 2020, 2021? Like yes, they're like the two biggest stars around for sure, and like I'd be happy to watch them, but is there not a more interesting pairing that we can have together, I guess?
You're not wrong in any way, but I guess also, if we keep on making, and I say this as a black individual for those who cannot see me,
Right.
but if we keep on making a whole bunch of things for the progressive,
Hmm.
I think that we also start alienating the rest of those. Like we're supposed to come together equal, just to be fair and square, sort of thing. So keep making all that stuff. Yeah, it's 2020, a time of change, but still, it's cool. I can work with that.
I can work with it too. I think if there's an acknowledgement or at least some strong like other like representation as
Yeah,
characters, and maybe it's not. I really hope it's not the case where like the bad guy is just a black man or something
yeah. Let's
like.
not play into stereotypes or anything.
Yeah, like it's just like let's give some good meat to other people than just the
Listen,
two co-stars.
I
But
would
we'll
be
see.
happy if like number one, number two white guys, number three, a black woman. Yo,
You
that's
okay?
gonna just turn it up. I'm just
Okay,
like,
okay. I'm
yeah.
down. Let's see. There's only a few more things that we'll get into before we get into the movie
The
of the week.
movie.
I'm going to
Ooh.
gloss over this, but this is more for our video game fans out there. But there is, do you know are you familiar with the Uncharted series at all for PlayStation?
Yeah, yeah, man. I actually have one. Never opened it.
Okay, well, you're familiar with it. Is
Yes.
all we know.
Yes.
Okay, well, this has been in the making for so fucking long. It's been like given to different directors, like actors, and just rewrites on rewrites, and people leaving and coming into the project, and just look like hell. And everyone's been trying to crack the video game movie code,
Mm.
and some different successes. Like I think the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is very good and probably my favorite video game movie, even though it's a children's movie. But I think they did really good there. But then we have had a history of stinkers out there.
Mm.
The Uncharted movie is starting production now, and the lead being Tom Holland and co-star Mark Wahlberg.
Oh.
Thoughts?
Okay, well, Tom Holland, honestly, he has a great following. Good on him. I felt that he's been very genuine to himself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been a really attractive trait. So, like, I'm all about him. I think he's awesome. Mark Wahlberg, okay, okay. He has such a mix of movies, eh?
Yeah, you know what? Like, I used to be a crazy Mark Wahlberg fan. Like, I think he has some really good movies. Like, I think The Fighter is like such a
That is a
good
good
fucking
one.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I started reading about like Marky Mark's like history and like
Yeah.
his racism growing
Mm-hmm.
up. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he is these days. And I don't really love the movies he's been putting out lately, although it does seem like he's like leaving the Hollywood zeitgeist of like being in every single movie, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about him anymore, is what I'm saying.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, I would say that he's definitely made some changes over the years, just from various things I've read, and I just don't know if I like him. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's it.
that's
That's
fair. Yeah,
it.
that's fair. Like again, I loved The Fighter and I like some other things. I was never a big Entourage guy, so I never cared for that.
Yeah, that was
But
stupid.
yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see where they go from here. But I also think like when you have a video game that is basically a movie, why make it into a movie? Like
Mhm.
I don't know. It just seems like like just play the video game. You'll get a better experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like some books should just remain books.
Yeah,
It's better that
totally.
way. The Twilight series. Oh God, I hate the fact that I know that right away. It was a reference
Wait, wait,
point.
wait, wait, wait.
Uh,
Are you saying
mm,
definitively that you like the books over the movies, or you just like the books in general?
I think right now I'm having a hard time at the fact that I have to admit that I've read all of them and watched it all. So give me a moment to get over that shit.
Wow, you watched all of? Oh man, those movies were bad.
in, in all
I
fairness, I
yeah.
read the books when I was in, gosh, I went like my first year of university, and it's what my dorm was doing. So it was like a great way to get to know the people. As for the movies, yeah, I watch them every year. I love it. I love
Every
it. I
year?
love them.
Oh my god,
I
that's
know.
ridiculous.
I'm
Okay, can I?
embarrassed.
I know this is not the Twilight episode, but I need to mention this fact because I had to watch them because I worked in an electronics section at a superstore way back when, and we had to basically put on the hot movie of like the month or like the 2 week span until another hot movie comes out, and we can't put on like super violent movies, obviously, because it's
Right.
playing on like a bunch of TVs.
Yeah.
But Twilight was consistently playing, and I got to know those movies so fucking well because it would just play nonstop. Like, I wasn't watching it always, but sometimes there was nothing to do. Instead of doing my work, I would just watch the movie. And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just baffled. And I was looking at this like special scenes. I don't know how I ended up on there.
You were
Maybe
looking for
someone,
it. You wanted more.
maybe I was looking for it. Someone else put it on. But anyways, they were freaking bragging about, there's a scene very early on when Edward, Robert Pattinson's character, steps in to save Kristen Stewart's character. I forget her name, Bella, I think.
This is
And
correct.
okay, good. I'm glad I'm being fact checked right now. Um, and he basically comes in and like shields her and then puts his arm out and stops like a bus or a car.
It
Do you
was a
remember
car.
this?
It was a pickup truck. It was orange rusted. Yes.
And he basically puts his arm out and completely dents the car.
Yeah.
And there was a special feature or whatever of how they made that scene. And when I was watching that, I'm like, they're spending a lot of time bragging about how good that looks. But every time I watch that scene on the internet or what, I'm not that I'm finding it all the time, but every time I see like a gif of it or something, or when I watched it back in the day, I could not believe how bad that practical effect was and why they were bragging about it.
Okay. I feel like now I have to go back. Like I haven't watched it enough times, but I need to go back and watch that moment just to truly see how bad it is. I don't
It's
doubt you.
horrendous, but I
Yeah.
mean, like, I don't know. Maybe it gets better. Maybe it's like a fine wine. It ages better over time.
Oh,
Anyways,
I would like to contribute it to it being the first movie. I'm sure the entire series got better from that.
questionable. Questionable. Okay, how about we talk about the movie
The
of the week,
movie.
Esther?
Woo! Oh,
Oh, you're wooing. You're
I'm
wooing.
wooing.
Esther, now you chose the movie of the week. Can you introduce it and why this movie?
Okay, so the movie of the week is The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Leave. It's not your loss. It's San Francisco.
I don't know how much longer we can keep doing this.
But I'm not leaving. I'm the last one left.
I'm with you, brother.
And I chose this movie, one, because it's a black movie. And Tung and I, we've been joking back and forth for quite some time that we need to watch a black movie. And
Yeah.
so I that's the one I decided to choose because
Just to be clear, I've watched several black movies
yes,
before.
yes, sorry. Yeah, his
But
favorite
we
is
were
Tyler
joking
Perry.
more about Tyler Perry movies. And I was
Mhm.
talking about this with Laura. Sorry, Esther, to cut you off. I was talking about this with Laura the other day. And I was like, Esther and I had this ongoing thing about like having to watch a black movie together. And I've honestly watched so many in the last like couple months.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy them, especially ones that have like strong messages or just strong like themes and whatever. But the ones I'm specifically talking about that I don't like are Tyler Perry movies. And Esther
Why?
wants me to watch those movies.
Do it. I
They're so
thought-
bad.
It's okay. Listen, if a director can make you laugh, cry, and pray all in one movie, that is a damn good director. Give the man some credit.
I will say the director makes me cry, but nothing else. Esther, sorry to cut you off. What is describe why you picked this movie and just dive deep a little bit into it before we give a summary of it, basically.
Yeah, for sure. So I was going through like a list of movies I wanted to watch, essentially just because, Black Lives Matter kind of started happening. And while I'm Black, I think sometimes I miss the message as well. So I wanted to focus on movies that had a little bit more of a deeper meaning, but also not get too heavy because let's face it, like that is my day-to-day life. So just a different view perhaps on it.
Yeah.
And I was going through it all and I had a list. And quite frankly, as I was going down, the next one I hadn't seen was this movie. So when you asked me what we wanted to watch, that was just next in line for me. I wish I had something deeper, but no.
Honestly, I think at first I was like, I've never heard of this movie, but then I looked at the poster and I think I like was scrolling past it a couple times on Crave, and now that I watched it, I'm like, oh no, I do recognize this because like a year ago, it was getting a lot of like buzz from Sundance, and I think it won some awards as well. So I was like, oh, okay, it's this movie that we're watching, and I'll give a summary of the movie for people that don't know what it is. And essentially, it's I'll read it from Google. Jimmy and his best friend Mont try to reclaim the house built by Jimmy's grandfather, launching them on a poignant odyssey that connects them to their past, even as it tests their friendship and sense of belonging in the place they call home. First time director Joe Talbot. And fun fact, the main character, Jimmy Frails, am I saying that right? Or
Yeah,
was it,
that's what I read from that. So yeah.
is it Fails? Jimmy Fails. This person who plays Jimmy Fails is Jimmy Fails in real life. It's
Yeah.
based on his real life, which is really cool.
Yeah, I found that really interesting, actually. Basically, from my understanding of how the story kind of came to be, Joe Talbot and Jamie were just kind of chilling one day, and he wanted a basic story that would have been cheap and kind of create a movie. And so, Jimmy just started talking, and Joe was like, "Yo, that's it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna write a story about your life, or write a movie about your life." Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really interesting, kind of like digging behind the scenes with this because Joe is a white male, and some people took, already kind of on the attack, basically being like, "Why is this white man directing this like black movie?" kind of thing. But Jimmy like immediately stepped in and be like, "No, no, no, no! Like this is a collaborative project. I gave him not only my blessing, but this is like I trust this person to tell like." Aspects of my story, and this is nothing to do with like white and black in terms of like director anyways. And I like that for like him, the guy who it's based on, being like, no, 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 this is the guy I trust to make my movie.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes you got to take a race out of it. Sometimes a decision is just a decision and it's good. Let's roll with
Yeah,
that.
totally, totally. So how about we approach it like this, Esther? How
Hmm.
did you like, first of all, we won't get into spoilers right
That's
away,
fair.
but we,
Yeah.
as every episode of Talking Tongue, we kind of talk about spoilers and that kind of stuff. I'm not sure how much of this movie needs to be spoiled, but just to warn the audience, we will spoil it at some point. Now, how did you feel about this movie, and did you like it?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at the slower approach to the movie. It's definitely you're kind of sit back, it's playing, and you might be looking at your phone at the same time. Just that's the way I felt it. It started off a little bit slower, but as the story developed, you started seeing some of those key characters here and there, just really describing the kind of neighborhood and what you would expect from that. So I just the realism, I think, of the neighborhood is what eventually started drawing me in. And then, yeah, no, I enjoyed it as it really started to unfold. And there's such a deeper meaning. You don't even have to get deep, but
Yeah,
if you want
yeah.
to, you can. So like, it
There
was great.
is definitely layers that come in later, and I'll speak on my perspective of the movie. I will agree with you. Like the first 40 minutes of the movie to almost an hour, I was like convinced I wasn't liking the movie, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like I was just, it doesn't tell its story off the get-go in a very not to say cohesive, but linear fashion.
Yeah.
You really have to just watch it and watch all the pieces fall into place as the movie progresses. And so the first, I would say, like hour of the movie, and it's a 2 hour movie, just kind of feels at first like kind of scattered, and you're like, where are they going with this? What is happening? Because they're not really explaining anything. They kind of just throw you into the
Hmm.
movie and expect you to just stay there for the ride. And I will agree, at the by the end of it, I was like, okay, I do like this movie, and I think it goes for stuff that I've never seen in a movie before, which I really, really appreciate in a movie. I'm not saying everything worked for me, but I still really liked my time with it by the end of it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, no, I definitely, there wasn't an exact focus point at the beginning. I felt like I literally, the movie kind of starts with the dude on a skateboard. So I literally felt that throughout the first hour, as you mentioned, which is me going along with this guy, like I'm just running beside him on his skateboard, just kind of experiencing his day to day life, which, I was like, I have my own life. Why do I have to experience yours like
I
this?
have my own skateboard.
Yes,
I could be
actually, I
writing that right now.
do. Right? But as it picked up, like, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. Your life actually is a little bit more interesting than I thought. So yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I would agree. And just for people, like I know we just read the summary, but maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into like the main poles of the movie. It's essentially Jimmy, the main character, at the beginning of the movie, like taking care of a house, and you're kind of wondering what that's all about. But it turns out this house is like the whole movie, basically,
Hmm.
right? It
Hmm.
all revolves around this house and the idea that like his grandfather built this house, and there's a lot of sentimental value behind it because it's like this is the first black man in San Francisco who kind of built this house. That's
Yeah.
what it's pitched as, right?
It's
It's
like
like
his
this man.
roots.
Exactly. This man made something in this very white neighborhood, right? And I think there's like a lot of contrast of like showing you how it used to be and how it is now, where it's like, there used to be like a clear black community and white community, but then it started like really segregating from each other, and
Right.
now it's kind of like mostly white, and then it's there's black pockets throughout San Francisco.
Yeah, I think the theme of the movie in some case is about gentrification, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So it definitely was showing how the less funded areas of the city are not getting the attention until the value of the land goes up, and then the city starts to pay a little bit more attention to them, but the spirit of the neighborhood then starts to get lost. So yeah,
Yeah, and this movie is really about this is why it's so interesting because I haven't really seen a movie about this. It's really about like this man who's like so like this the idea of the past is so ingrained in his soul basically, and not wanting to let go and not wanting to shift with the change, even though to him it's bad change, and to us it's like it's just change, right? It's gentrification of like
yeah,
this area, and he is trying to hold on tight to this like the idea of you know uh, of not change and
yeah.
just keeping things the same.
Well, and not to give too much away, just his life in general. We hear about him being in the system, his parents, various things like that. The house itself, like I said, is the roots. Like that is his heritage. And for so many people, especially if you think about that time period, how long has his family been in America,
Mhm.
or in that general area as things start to develop. So as things around him start to fall apart, that becomes such a central thing for him, just that sense of heritage.
Yeah, definitely. And then they get into like some other crazy stuff that I didn't expect them to do too, right? Like, do you have this whole not subplot because it's kind of ingrained in the whole thing, but the whole Kofi guy,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was part of the other. They used to what was it? They lived in a group home together or something.
yeah. Definitely, they were in foster care or wards of the state, however you want to phrase
Yeah.
it. So yeah, they at some point lived together and went chose separate paths. I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, and like it was interesting for me to see like it's a very simple story beat, but it was very effective the way they showed it. Essentially, like this person who's part of like this, I would say a small gang or group who just basically beef the main two characters outside of Mont's place the entire
yeah.
time, and we'll get to Mont in a little bit. And there is this one guy, Kofi or Coffee, I think it's Kofi,
Goofy, I think.
and
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to really engage with that. Like the rest of the people are like really trying to get tough skin, right? Being like the amount of times the N word is said in this movie is quite ridiculous. But like I was like, oh my god, like it is like every
yeah.
line with
But
those
like, in all fairness,
characters.
that's like bro to bro sort of thing,
For sure,
placement, not
for
like
sure.
using it in a negative way.
No, 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 but it was definitely like bro to bro for sure. And I was like, oh my God. But anyways, they're trying to toughen this guy up. And then we have this whole plot of like, oh, this guy's actually like pretty chill and he doesn't really want to be like that. But then he goes back to his group of guys and needing to prove himself,
Yeah,
which
he got a
and then
front.
here we'll get into spoilers, like it ends up killing him.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Well, when it comes to like those guys on the street, like that's such a constant thing. I think you see in movies that have black people or black neighborhoods, where you have the folks on the side who are just kind of chilling, and like there's actually a term for that. I'm trying to remember. I think it's just called like the street corner man, and
Okay,
essentially
okay.
it stems from individuals looking for work or working the odd hours or the odd jobs. So making themselves available, there used to be people that kind of like drove through the ghetto or however you want to call it and be like, yo, you looking for work? All right, cool. And then that changed more to, if you can't get the work, then there's going to be other people being like, yo, you want to do this for me? And which
Oh,
is
I
more like
see.
gang related stuff. So you see how, that entire kind of grouping of people put in to one category. And if you're looking good on the street, at least you're making it. You can show how good you are. Because at one point, these guys on the side, they make fun of Jimmy because he wears the same clothes. I don't know if you picked
Yeah.
up on that
Yeah,
or
yeah,
not,
definitely.
right? But it's kind of like, listen, you're not doing anything in your life. You're not showing that you can be something. Instead, you're just going around on your skateboard. Look at us fronting here on the side, So like, look at us, how good we are.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Um, yeah, that's a really interesting. I didn't even think of that, but that's really cool insight. The whole crux of the movie, I guess, is there's a lot of Jimmy, and I guess we didn't really touch on this yet, but Jimmy is essentially like people lived in this house that he's talking about before, and then very early on they have to leave the house
Hmm.
for I forget whatever
I
reason.
think her
And
mom died.
okay, yes. And then the rest of the movie ends up being like, how is Jimmy going to move all of his like grandfather's stuff back into the house that, his
Hmm.
aunt ended up keeping?
Yeah.
And the entire time, like, and he ends up doing it. Like, basically, they're saying, like, oh, it could take years to sell the house. So it ends up just being empty for a couple years. So Jimmy in his head's like, oh, sick. So I'm just going to live in the house. And in my head, I'm just like, and like as someone who's recently just bought a house, I'm like, how does that logistically even work? Like, where does the bills go? Where does
Yeah.
how is there any power? How is nobody stopping this? Like, it's really fascinating the lengths that this guy is going through, like basically sneaking into this place and trying to live there and making this his home.
Well, like that for him, I feel like that was just a moment where maybe things would start going right for him.
Yeah,
Like if I can get back in my house. So he didn't care. He was like, whatever it takes, I'm gonna do it. If I end up having to, squat in this place, at least I'm in my grandfather's home. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then he eventually does want to try to buy it, and they're like saying like, "Yo, it's gonna cost $4 million," and it's like, okay, well,
Damn.
darn, that's a lot of money. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but the whole movie ends up being like his obsession to wanting to keep the house, right? Even though he
Mhm.
doesn't have any real ownership over it. Like, there is like on a legal sense, it makes no sense for him to like actually keep the house. Like he just wants it for the sentimental value, which
Exactly.
again, spoilers, we'll kind of dance around this, but maybe we won't need to. It's just
Mhm.
like it ends up not being his grandfather's house. Like it was, but he didn't build it.
Yeah. That how did you feel when you first heard that?
Well, it's really interesting because like it ends up, I know we're going all over the place with this movie, but like at the very end, it turns out there's like another lesson on this, right? It's kind of like he knew it wasn't his grandfather's house that like, or at least he knew that his grandfather didn't build it. Like he was tricking himself basically,
Mhm.
like just saying it to himself so many times that he basically believed it himself, right?
Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
until his best friend calls him out on it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think like at that moment, it was that last bit of connection he was able to feel with anything in San Francisco. And the thought of losing that, well, he couldn't even focus on it. It kind of shows the approach he took to getting possession of the house or attempting, that he didn't care. As long as it fit within his idea of what should be, that was fine.
Exactly. And that kind of leads it to being like at the very end, he no longer feels that's when he feels the gentrification of the city, right? So
Mm.
he ends up being like, no, I'm gonna just take my rowboat and row out of San Francisco,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful imagery, but logistically, I'm like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say this movie made complete sense, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I do want to jump back though. Like we talked a lot about the major strokes of the movie, but we are really glossing over like I think the powerhouse of this movie, at least for me, which is Jonathan Major's character, which is Montgomery Allen or just Mont
Mont,
in
yeah.
this movie. And I had my doubts with this character at first because I'm
Really?
like, what's his deal? And
Okay,
well,
okay.
I was just like, how does he contribute to the movie? Right now, he plays at the very beginning. He plays as like a very quirky best friend who's very helpful, of course, because they're best friends, but they're brothers. Like they do everything
Yeah.
together, and they let Jimmy, and when I say they, I mean Mont and his father, who's played by Danny Glover,
Oh, I love Danny Glover.
which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And basically, they let Jimmy live with them, right? As Jimmy's trying to pick himself up off his feet and, like, ends up trying to live at this place.
So like he picks him
So
up off his feet.
yeah, but Mont is like the ultimate best friend in this movie. He does so much for Jimmy, and it ends up like he really made me like he for me was the strongest parts of this movie, especially like the powerhouse acting that he did at towards, like, I would say, the climax of the movie,
Are you
which
referring
it
to the one man show?
the one man
The
show.
one man
Yeah,
show. Yeah. No,
how did you feel about that?
I loved that scene. Just the passion in which it was delivered, I think kind of made the entire movie for me because there were so many things that were spoken about. And it wasn't just that he was speaking to his best friend. He actually had collected a few people from the neighborhood and he was just kind of spitting some real truth. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, man, okay. That's you and your soapbox. I see you.
Yeah, and he was like trying to embody those characters, that the real life people, right? You got the person on the basically the box, like the milk crate,
Yeah.
who's saying the water is dirty, that person, and then you have a Kofi and the guy who pushed him to be hard, and then that guy has doubts and stuff of, like, he starts feeling bad about pushing Kofi, and he's trying to embody all these characters, and it really speaks to, like, Jonathan, who wants to be a playwright essentially, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell that he has a really hard time being normal, whatever normal is, but he's not really good at being your typical black man in San Francisco, or he's not like one of the street guys, and he has a hard time saying the N-word. So really the way he tries to put on the play is by embodying other people and practicing that.
Yeah. And it was, like I said, incredibly powerful because just you saw him change. You saw how years of observing his community and what he was getting from it, and just how he was able to dissect all that was happening to create this other narrative that I think some people had forgotten or turned a blind eye to. So that was cool, man. It was cool.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. I love the idea that he never broke character. It's almost as if he couldn't talk to these people as anybody else except for, like, the preacher dude, right? Like, he had to be that character to be able to lay the truths in about Kofi, and to lay the truths about Jimmy, his best friend, right? Like, he wouldn't have been able to do that on his own. He had to be like, hey, I read the deed. You're kidding yourself, that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that was just like such a crazy performance that, like, really blew me away.
Absolutely. I would say that was the second most powerful moment for me throughout the movie. Yeah.
Interesting. What was the first?
The very opening, I'm not going to lie, because at that moment, you don't know what you're really sitting down to watch. And just, I guess, like, spoiler alert in some ways.
Well, we already spoiled the movie. So.
This is very true, very true, very true. But it starts off with a little girl who's just kind of standing, and she's like looking like she's in her school clothes, sort of thing. And she looks up, and there's this man in a hazmat suit just breathing on down. And then you start hearing, we mentioned a man on a soapbox who was just kind of preaching out to everyone. And you start understanding that because of gentrification, suddenly people have come in and started to care for the city, but they never cared about the Black people that were living there before. So It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, well, like, we're jumping right in and identifying, yes, there is an unequal feeling in this community, but we're not fully focused on that. Yes, it's there, but let's move on and also look at these other points.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, out of a lot of the Black stories that I've been consuming over the last while, and just like in my life in general, it's the way they approach the Black experience is very interesting, because in some parts it doesn't have to involve being Black or white, I think, at least in the terms of, like, getting used to gentrification and getting used to, like, change. But the other side is they, which I really appreciate, is they really do talk about the clear line between the Black and the white community in San Francisco.
Yeah. And I don't know if you also picked up on this. There were two other times where you saw people that clearly lived within the neighborhood that were white. And then you also saw the people that moved into it. So the two that you knew lived there, one at the very beginning was a white man that looked like he was on drugs, just kind of running around. And the second one
Right.
was the naked man that sat down beside him. So that
Oh
almost suggests
yeah.
that these are the individuals that the city has deemed they don't truly care about as well.
Right, right. And then you got the bus that came around and they said, "This guy fucks. This guy fucks." And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. I think I read it was like a nod to Silicon Valley, the show.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. Like at first I was like, okay, this is hilarious because just think that's funny. But apparently it was like a nod to that era and time. And I was like, okay, all right.
All right.
There was a intention behind that, which I didn't fully pick up on, but I appreciate that it was there.
All right. Yeah, I think I can get behind all that stuff.
I think a really interesting thing was also his family. Like we have his aunt
Mm.
and his father, right? And of course, we have Danny Glover's character, which has also an interesting perspective as well. And we don't have to dive into every single one of them. But what did you think about like the older generation of the Black community?
Well, I think they definitely were taking on the roles that um, happen in real life. Like you often do have these men that, for whatever reason, could not commit to their family, and they're still trying to make it on their own. Like they're still struggling. And then you have the aunt who, she's the auntie. She's the one that has to take care of the family at the end of the day. She has to pick up for her brother's slack, for, a mother that isn't really there, various things. So she's trying to keep everyone together. And, it was good to see that those roles were still being portrayed. But at the
Yeah, you
same
can
time,
tell like it really weighed on him, like how he was brought up. And I was just thinking about like that moment on the bus, that scene of him
hmm
just happening to see his mother, who's actually been there for a few months, never try to contact him or anything. And they have like this really weird and awkward, but very real scene of, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. This is nice. Should I drop by tomorrow? And like, I was just thinking about that and she never does, right? Like
no,
she never comes
no.
by.
No, and I think that's just a statement of, you get into that routine. You've told yourself it's fine. I don't need to see my son. I don't need to see my daughter. And you start believing it. So when you're suddenly confronted with it, like that's terrifying. So it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's easier just to bow out.
That's nuts to me. I didn't really think about that until now, how she promised that she'd go see him, but she never does.
Yeah.
So wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I like the older generation. There's a really interesting line of trying to protect Jimmy in their own weird way,
hmm
by not letting him know too much truth, but also they also try to protect themselves and they try to distance themselves too. Like it's a weird balance of like, hey, we care about you, but like don't really be too involved in my life because I don't want you in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming it was because they realized that they weren't really adding a lot of positivity to it. Like the dad mentioned about living out of the car, I think, or maybe it was their friend played by Mike Epps.
Right.
But
Yes.
yeah, just like that was the life. And now, you have better opportunities. You might not be living with your parents, but at least you are under a roof with people that care about you. So trying to find the positives and all that because the world has a lot of messed up stuff, man.
Yeah, I have to say, like living in your car, like the way he had like lights in his car
Oh,
and stuff.
yo.
I'm like, isn't that draining your battery? Like, I don't understand how this is working. Like, do you just boost your car every day, or like what?
I love how you think like practical. I was like, yo, that looks so cool. That's amazing.
Well, he is like he's sleeping on like in his car in the middle like of nowhere with the lights on at
Yeah.
all times, and I'm just thinking like his windows are down too.
Yeah.
So
Well, he had
couldn't
to keep them
anybody
down.
walk up to him and do something bad?
Well, like you remember, just as he's settling in, he hears gunshots in the background, and he just kind of like sits up. So windows are down probably because of heat and to hear stuff. However, I don't know why you keep those lights on. People gonna see you.
People can see you. It's funny, but he never minded. He's just like, yeah, people like me. Who cares? Like, people like me, and I like living in my car. So
Right?
whatever.
At least it's his. Well,
Yeah,
he stole it, but it's fine.
right. I really want to talk about, before we wrap up our thoughts on this movie, there's two things that I kind of left out to the very end because I think these are two of the most impressive things that I think about when I think about this movie. And that is the cinematography and the music of this
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Visually, I was kind of amazed. Like there were moments where I'm like, that would make the perfect photo. Just as they
Yeah.
try to use, the smoke in order to create some kind of eerie atmosphere. various things like that. But what really took me away, and maybe this is because I love music and that's my background, was the music. It was incredible, specifically the use of the clarinet and the oboe.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, man, they're really going for it with that
Yeah,
hobo.
yeah, but it was kind of like that lone siren that would just kind of play throughout these emotional moments to really kind of, you know, make you feel what Jimmy was in fact feeling. And then all of a sudden, when they changed to like different characters, snap in some different music.
Yeah, I love a great soundtrack in a movie, and it's been a while since I've heard something that was so complimentary to the movie itself, but also just great to listen to. Like it just really fit, but
Yeah.
also it was. I'm not saying like catchy, like I'm not like thumping my feet at the same time and stuff like that, but I really enjoyed the cohesion with the story and the sounds around it. And
Yeah.
yeah, the cinematography was just beautiful too. Like you're mentioning this, there's just a lot of cool shots, skateboarding and running. And I also made a note very early on being like, man, those two are riding on the same skateboard through San Francisco.
Mhm.
That seems hard.
Yo, there was this one scene where, you know, that big hill that they have in San Francisco, like you always see it and the streetcars going along with it.
Yeah.
There was the scene where he is long or he's skateboarding down it, and like I longboard. I thought I was okay, but holy
Yeah, he's
crap.
just going for it. But then he wipes out, doesn't he? Or
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
well, you know.
Yeah, but it was like really impressive. And I was like, I can never do that.
Oh
But
right.
then I was thinking like Mont is several beautiful cinematography moments is like, yeah, the skateboarding, but also Mont running beside him at full speed, but
Yeah.
they don't really address that. It's just like he's either on the skateboard sometimes or he's just running full speed along his best friend because that's just who they are together.
Yeah. Well, which is like the best kind of friendship ever. If I had my friend running beside me, I'd be happy.
I almost really choked up at the very end too, like when he wrote, it's like, I didn't know how to say goodbye, but you are my best friend in caps. And I'm like, that's so sweet, but also so sad.
Well, yeah, and I think for me, what I got from that is, you know, Jimmy knew that he couldn't take Mont away from his father and father away from Mont. You know, that pair had to stay. The two were so happy together, but he also knew that he couldn't remain. So, you know, he
Yeah.
kind of took that sacrifice for their friendship, knowing that at the end of the day, they still meant so much to each other.
Yeah. The, heartbreak moments where Mont is just doing all of the stuff that they would have done together, but you
Mm-hmm.
just see him doing it by himself is like,
Bruh, it
oh,
broke me
kills
for a
me.
second. Yeah.
And he can't even do it with his father who's blind. Like they watch movies together and they'll write plays together,
Yeah.
but like, there's only so much they can do together. So
I was
I,
actually for a second angry at Jimmy for it, just seeing Mont dead in the eyes as he scooped out some dead fish. Like,
yeah, yeah, but it's very fitting for that character to be like, there is no place for me here.
mhm,
And really fitting for the title to be like, I am the last black man in San Francisco, which is not true, but like, but still the feeling of I am the last person who is holding on to this, history,
yeah,
and it's time to go because I can't accept this change anymore. I have to
exactly.
leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful stuff. Esther, do you have any final thoughts on this movie?
Um, yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I will definitely probably listen to the music again. We've already covered it, obviously, but I actually enjoyed it so much that I will gladly just kind of hang out, read a book, and have that music in the background
Mhm.
because, like, perfect for that type of setting. But overall, I would just say that people should give this movie a chance. I think it was better than I expected, to be honest. When I first started getting into it, I was like, ah, yeah, I'll watch this sometime. And then you're like, what's the one we're going to watch? I'm like, oh, guess this
Yeah,
is.
I will say off the top again, like I said, it's just a movie that I think is really hard to start off with. I think there's a slow burn,
Hmm.
and you feel stupid as the audience member because at least for me, I was like, what is happening? Like, what am I supposed to grasp at that I'm not yet grasping at? But it does come,
Yeah.
and it takes patience to get there. And when it gets there, it is powerful, and I think it's worth going through. But if you are an impatient viewer, then this movie might not be
Yeah.
for you. But I would say give it a shot anyways,
Yeah.
if you can.
You know what? At least try it. Maybe stay for a song, stay for some visual. You know, you'd be good.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that like I said earlier, the message in this type of story is unlike something I've ever seen before. And I think it's telling me a new story, which is always interesting, right? But also it is such a strong directorial debut by this director and
Yes.
this actor, like really showcasing themselves as a lead actor.
To be honest, I would never have thought this was the first time for
Yeah.
directing and just even for his acting, right? He's not really known.
Yeah.
So that in itself was surprising. And why not give the dude a chance, right?
I want to see more of Jonathan Majors, honestly. Apparently he was in Da 5 Bloods, and I haven't seen that yet, but people love that movie, so I want to give that a shot.
Yeah. I'm also just going to make you watch more black movies now.
Okay, well, I'm not doing Tyler Perry
We're
movies.
starting
I'm
with
sorry.
Tyler Perry, actually. That's where we're starting. Medea goes to...
Oh,
she goes
God.
places,
All right. Well, maybe one day if I run out of guests. Esther, bottom of the barrel. No, I'm kidding. Esther, we have to, or not me, but you have to rate this movie. Now, we don't use scales from 1 to 10 here. That's too boring.
Oh, fair.
So I want you to create a scale that is on the theme of this movie. How would you rate this movie?
Okay. The theme of this movie... oh gosh,
how many skateboards
harder.
do you rank this movie?
Sorry, how many what?
Skateboards. How many skateboards would you rate this?
Yeah. I give this like a solid 7 point. Like, unfortunately, there's a broken skateboard, but 7.5 skateboards
out of
9, just to be weird.
Okay, all right. We got 7.5 skateboards out of 9. That is a pretty high percentage, and that is very fitting because Jimmy does break his skateboard. So there you go.
There it is. There we found the broken piece.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. Esther, thank you so much for joining me on today's Talking Tongue.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of course. What a deep conversation we had.
It was.
So mature for us.
Look at us go.
Yeah, usually it's just either stupid stuff or arguing. But I think we actually came together on this and agreed on this movie.
It had to happen once. We got it done. It will never happen again. It's out of our system.
Yeah, folks at Talking Tongue, this is something you'll never see again, especially if we end up watching a Tyler Perry movie.
Oh my goodness, just watch it.
No. Esther, thanks again. Now, do you have anything to plug for the people at home?
Not really, because, I just chill a lot, you know what I'm saying? So at some point, I'm going to get my podcast up and started. By the sounds of it, Tongue wouldn't mind, maybe saying something about it. And if I get it out there, I get it out there.
That's right. Yeah, we would love to hear more thoughts about it. But you're on thin ice, Esther, even though this went well. So we'll see how it goes.
Fair.
And for myself, you can find the rest of the shows in the Pod Cavern at www.podcavern.com. Since I am moving, and I alluded to that earlier, and we're not squatting, not like Jimmy in this movie. Since we're actually moving, we have to move the entire Pod Cavern. So we're going to take a 2-week break from Talking Tongue, starting after this week. And when we're back, we're not going to have Esther because she is
awesome.
Ridiculous.
Awesome. Definitely
we'll have Esther back at some point for sure. We need to have more takes on not just Tyler Perry movies, but maybe Kill Bill, even though you didn't really care about that, and maybe Jamie Foxx.
Listen, I can never actually say no to Jamie Foxx. So, you know.
Maybe when Atomic Blonde 2 comes back, that's when
we can do that.
We can really get into that. But of course, you can find the rest of shows in the Pod Cavern there and more to come. Now, Esther, we have to sign off with your famous catchphrase.
Okay. I'm going to go with, ain't nobody got time for that. Woo!
Woo! Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye, Esther.
Peace.